The stranger in the rain had not stopped all day. It beat hard on the glass walls of Sundar Pichai's Palo Alto home, casting ripples of gray across the warm lights inside. The house was quiet except for the soft hum of jazz music and the occasional crackle of the fireplace. Sundar sat at the edge of the long dining table, flipping through pages of a new tech proposal. His mind half present, his heart a little tired. Life at the top even for the CEO of one of the world's most powerful companies could be lonely sometimes. His wife, Anjali, was in the kitchen preparing tea. The scent of ginger and cardamom floated through the air. Their 17-year-old daughter, Kavya, hadn't returned from school yet. She was late. She was never late, just as Sundar reached for his phone to call her. The door opened with a loud creak. Wind and water rushed in, followed by hurried footsteps and soaked shoes on marble. "Appa, don't be mad," Kavya said quickly. Her voice shaky. Behind her stood a girl, no older than Kavya. Her clothes were wet and torn. Her hair clung to her face. She clutched a small, muddy backpack. She didn't speak. She didn't look up. Sundar stood slowly, confused. "Who is this?" Kavya took a breath. "This is Amira. She's homeless. I found her behind the school library. She has no one." Anjali stepped forward, alarmed but calm. "Oh, God. She must be freezing. Come in, child." But Sundar didn't move. Something inside him froze. A homeless girl inside his house. "Kavya, what do you mean she has no one? Where are her parents?" "They're gone," Kavya said softly. "She's been on the street for months. She sleeps behind the dumpster. I couldn't leave her there. Not in this storm." There was a silence that stretched too long. Sundar's mind raced. Security. Safety. What would the neighbors say? What if someone found out? But he also saw the look in his daughter's eyes. Not rebellion, not defiance, but something pure compassion. The kind he hadn't felt in years. Amira finally looked up. Her eyes were tired. Too tired for a teenager. Eyes that had seen hunger, cold, and fear. But there was no anger in them. No resentment. Just silent hope. "Please," she said in a whisper. "I won't be trouble." Those words hit Sundar in the chest like a punch. He remembered being a boy in India, walking kilometers just to find clean water. He remembered standing at the back of classrooms, waiting for someone to notice he didn't have a notebook. He had come a long way. Too far, maybe. Angel. I brought a towel and wrapped it around Amira's shoulders. "Come," she said gently. "Let me get you dry clothes." Amira followed her, leaving Sundar and Kavya alone. "I had to," Kavya said. "I couldn't just walk away." Sundar looked at her. His daughter. Her hair wet, her bag dripping, water onto the polished floor. But in that moment she looked taller, braver, like someone he could learn from. "You did the right thing," he said, surprising even himself, but he wasn't sure what came next. He wasn't ready for what that one act of kindness would unleash. The next morning, everything felt different. The house, usually quiet and predictable, was filled with new energy. Amira sat at the breakfast table, dressed in one of Kavya's old hoodies, her hair now clean and dry. She looked unsure, like she was still waiting to be told to leave. Sundar watched her from a distance. She was polite, soft-spoken, almost invisible. She barely touched the toast on her plate. "Amira," he said finally. "How old are you?" 16, she replied. "Do you go to school?" "Not anymore. That's done." Sundar had spent his life building tools for education, for opportunity. And here was a child sitting in his kitchen, completely cut off from it. "Why didn't you ask for help?" "Yes. I looked away." "I did. No one listened." Sundar said nothing. Kavya took her hand. "But I listened," she said. Amira smiled, the first real smile Sundar had seen on her face. It was small, but powerful. Sundar cleared his throat. "We'll figure something out," he said. But inside, he was torn. He was the CEO of Google, a man who solved global problems. And yet, one girl's quiet pain left him feeling powerless. That night, he stayed up late in his study, reading everything he could about homeless youth in America. The numbers shocked him. Tens of thousands of children without homes, without families, without safety. Not just in distant places, but right here, right outside his office buildings. Outside his daughter's school. The world had changed. But not enough. The next morning, he called his assistant. I need a private meeting. No press, no noise. Just someone from a youth shelter. Make it happen. Something in him had shifted. He didn't know why yet, but he knew it mattered. That evening. As he returned from work, he found Kavya and Amira in the backyard, laughing, playing with the dog. For a moment, it felt like they'd known each other forever. She's funny, Kavya said later, and smart. Smarter than me, Amira blushed. Stop it. No, really, Kavya insisted. She can solve math problems. In her head, as she reads like crazy, I think she's a genius. Sundar watched them, a strange feeling growing in his chest. Maybe this wasn't just about helping someone. Maybe this was about waking up to things he had forgotten. The world wasn't just about code, deadlines, and board meetings. It was about people. He looked at Amira. What do you want to be when you grow up? She hesitated. I used to want to be an architect. Used to? Sundar asked. Dreams don't survive the streets, she said. Sundar didn't sleep that night. His mind kept replaying those words. Dreams don't survive the streets. He had to do something. But before he could, something unexpected happened. Days later, when he returned home early from a board meeting, the front door was slightly open. He walked in quietly. The living room was empty. So was the kitchen. He heard soft voices upstairs. As he climbed the stairs slowly. He caught a glimpse of Kavya's room. The door was open just a crack, and what he saw made his stomach turn. Ira. It was holding a small black phone, and Kavya looked worried. Double quotes. Ira. Are you sure this is okay? Kavya asked. Mir nodded. They need to know. Someone has to know. Sundar pushed the door open. What's going on? He asked, his voice calm but firm. Mir turned around, startled. I was just... She trailed off, but the damage was done on the phone screen. Sundar saw something he never expected. A photo. An old photo of himself in a man he hadn't seen in over 20 years. Asterisk, the secret past. Silence in the room was deep. Sundar stood at the door, frozen, his eyes locked on the phone screen. The image seemed to burn into his memory. A photo from another life. His life, but one he had. Buried a long time ago. The colors of the photo had faded, like old paper left too long in the sun, but the faces were clear. His face, much younger, maybe in his early 20s. And beside him, smiling with an arm around his shoulder, was someone Sundar never thought he'd see again. His name was Raga. Memories flooded Sundar's mind like a sudden storm. Hot summer evenings in Chennai. Sitting on plastic chairs outside a tea stall, sharing one cup of chai between them because they couldn't afford two. Long talks about the future, about escaping poverty, about building something that would make their mothers proud. Dreams spoken softly in broken English, fueled more by hope than by confidence. But that was before everything went wrong. Amira stood still, eyes wide. She hadn't meant for Sundar to see the photo. She wasn't ready to explain it. Not yet. Kavya reached for her father's hand, worried. Pa, she said gently. Do you know him? Sundar didn't answer immediately. His breath was shallow. His throat felt tight. When he finally spoke, his voice was softer than usual, almost like a whisper. Where do you get this? He asked, without taking his eyes off the photo. Amir glanced down at the floor. I found it in an old notebook. It was the only thing I had left when I lost the last shelter. I never knew who the other man was. I just kept it because he meant everything to my father. The words hit Sundar like a wave. Her father. Your father was... Sundar stopped. Mir nodded slowly. His name was Raghav. Raghav? Shankar. The room spun. Sundar stumbled back a step and leaned against the doorframe. He hadn't heard that name out loud in over 2 decades. A part of him thought Raghav forever. He had searched once many years ago when the guilt became too loud, but Raghav had disappeared without a trace. No phone, no social media, no family connections. Sundar had convinced himself that maybe Raghav had moved on, maybe started fresh somewhere else. Maybe he was fine. He wasn't, is he? Sundar began, not sure if he wanted to know the answer. Amira's eyes watered. She didn't speak for a moment. When she did, her voice was a broken whisper. He died last winter, in a parking garage, alone. No one came. The city didn't even send someone to pick up his body for 2 days. Sundar felt his knees weaken. He sat down slowly on the edge of Kavya's bed, the weight of those words crushing the air from his chest. The rain had stopped outside, but the silence inside the room was louder than any storm. I don't understand, Kavya said quietly. Why didn't we know about this? Why didn't you know? Amira wiped her face with her sleeve. He never said much. Only that once, a long time ago, he had a friend who made it out. Someone smart. Someone who promised they'd change the world together. But one day he just disappeared. Sundar lowered his head. He remembered the exact day it happened. It was the day he got the scholarship to Stanford. A full ride. A ticket out of India, out of poverty, into a new world. But there had only been one spot. He had won it. Raghav hadn't. They fought that night. It was the only time they'd ever raised their voices at each other. Sundar had begged Raghav to understand, promised to come back for him, to help him once he was stable. But Raghav had turned away, and Sundar never went back. Not once. He had sent one letter, maybe two, and then the world took over. Grad school, internships, marriage, parenthood, success. And somewhere along the way, guilt became background noise. Until now, Maya stood still, arms crossed, not out of defiance, but protection. I didn't bring the photo to cause trouble, she said. I didn't even know who you were at first. I only wanted a warm place to sleep. I didn't know it would be your house. Kavya sat beside her, stunned. So, you're the daughter of my Appa's best friend? Amira nodded. His only friend. Sundar looked up at her, and for the first time, he saw more than just a girl his daughter brought home. He saw history, failure, a mirror held up to a younger version of himself. He had spent his entire life building bridges between worlds, but he had let the most important one crumble to dust. Why didn't he reach out? Sundar asked, his voice cracking. Amira shook her head. He tried. He sent letters. To your old address in India. He didn't know you'd moved. Then he stopped trying. The shame burned deep in Sundar's chest. Anjali appeared at the doorway, having overheard enough to understand. She didn't speak, but her eyes were filled with pain. She walked over and placed a gentle hand on Sundar's shoulder. He took it, grateful for the anchor. For a long time, no one said a word. Finally, Sundar turned to Amira. I owe you everything, he said, and I owe your father more than I can ever repay. Amira looked at him, eyes tired. You don't owe me anything, but I do, he insisted, and I'll prove it. She stared at him, unsure whether to believe him. He stood slowly and reached for the phone again. He stared at the photo. He used to talk about building a place for kids like us, somewhere safe, where no one had to beg to be seen. He called it a school of second chances. He said if no one would build it for us, we'd build it ourselves. Amira's lips trembled. He used to tell me stories about that place. He never let go of it. Sundar smiled faintly. Neither did I. I just forgot for a while. He turned to Kavya. Thank you for bringing her home. You didn't just save her, you saved me too. And then, as the tension in the room began to fade, the doorbell rang. Anjali looked surprised. We're not expecting anyone. They all walked downstairs together, Amira staying close to Kavya. Sundar opened the door slowly. Dot standing outside was a tall man in a black coat, holding a folder and a badge. Double quotes Mr. Pichai. He asked. Sundar nodded. My name is Agent Delgado. I'm with Child Protective Services. We received an anonymous tip. About a minor living here without legal guardianship. Amira's face went pale, but the man continued. I'm here to ask some questions and possibly take temporary custody of the girl until we verify her identity and situation. No, Kavya said sharply. Sundar raised a hand. It's okay, he said, though his voice trembled. We'll cooperate. Amira looked at him, terrified. Please, she whispered, don't let them take me. Sundar looked at the agent dot, and in that moment, he made a decision. Asterisk, a promise reignite air outside was cool, but the tension at the door made it feel like the middle of a storm. Agent Delgado stood firm, his badge still held up as if it gave him more weight, more authority than he already had. Behind him, a sleek black car idled quietly, its engine humming low, like a warning. Inside the house, everything was still. No one moved, no one breathed too loudly. Kavya instinctively placed her arm around Amira, pulling her just a little closer. Sundar could feel the fear radiating from both of them, one fearing the unknown, the other fearing loss. Amira's eyes were glassy with panic. Her hands gripped the edge of her hoodie, knuckles white. Sundar saw the same look in her that he used to see in struggling students back in India, those who wanted a future but had no path. Only closed doors. Agent Delgado spoke again, this time more carefully. Sir, I understand this might be sudden, but our department received a report. We have to respond. We're not here to harm anyone, but we do need to follow procedure. Sundar stepped forward, his voice calm but unwavering. Who filed the report? The agent shook his head. Anonymous and confidential. I am sorry. Sundar narrowed his eyes slightly. Someone knew she was here. Someone wanted her gone. Mister? Pichai, the agent said, lowering his badge. If she's truly in danger or needs help, our goal is to provide it. This doesn't have to be complicated. We just need to verify her status, her identity, and determine if she has any living relatives or legal guardians. Amira looked up at Sundar. Her lips trembled. They'll put me back in the system. I've been there before. I know what it's like. They move you from house to house. You're just a name on a list. You're nobody. You're not nobody. Kavya said fiercely. You're my friend. Anjali stepped closer. Officer, she said, choosing her words carefully. Amira has done nothing wrong. She has harmed no one. She's just a child who needs care and safety. We're giving her both. Delgado nodded. I hear you. But we still need to take her for now. This isn't about fault. It's about protocol. Sundar stood silent for a long moment. And then slowly he stepped aside. I want to come with her, he said. Delgado hesitated. I am not sure. I'm not asking. She's under my roof. I'm coming. The agent gave a small nod. Fine, but only one person. Sundar turned to Amira and knelt to her level. We're not going to lose you, he said, placing a hand gently on her shoulder. I promise. Amira blinked slowly, the tears barely held back. You sound like him, she whispered. Like my father. Sundar smiled faintly. Then, he must have been a good man. The ride to the agency was quiet. Delgado sat in front, silent, while Sundar and Amira rode in the back. She stared out the window, refusing to speak. Sundar didn't push her. He knew what it was like to be taken from what little safety you had left. He remembered the day he left India, the ache of leaving behind family, the sharp guilt of stepping into opportunity alone. And now, here he was, sitting beside the daughter of the man who gave him courage and never got a chance for himself. They arrived at a tall, cold building with gray walls and fluorescent lights. The lobby was filled with the low murmur of voices and the soft clack of shoes on tile. Sundar walked with Amira past rows of tired parents, lost children, and social workers whose eyes had seen too much. It was a world most people ignored. Just behind the polished glass of the cities they admired, they were led into a small room. The walls were bare. 2 chairs, a table, a file cabinet. Sundar sat beside Amira, who clutched the sleeves of her hoodie again. A woman entered mid-40s. With soft eyes and a firm voice. I'm Mrs. Rosen, she said. I've been assigned to Amira's case. Sundar extended a hand. Sundar. Her eyebrows raised slightly, the name clearly familiar to her. I know who you are. Then you'll understand that I'm not here as a CEO. I'm here as someone who cares deeply about this girl. She is not just another file in your cabinet. Mrs. Rosen gave a small nod and sat across from them. We're not monsters, or pichai, but we have laws. And this child has no guardianship, no registered address, no legal history we can trace. We need to know her story. Amira took a breath. My father was Raghav Shankar. He died 8 months ago. Before that, we lived in motels, shelters. Sometimes the street. He homeschooled me as much as he could. He used to tell me stories about a friend, someone he trusted more than anyone. Sundar looked down. When he died, Amira continued, I tried to stay in the last shelter. But they couldn't keep me without paperwork. So I left. I didn't want to be a burden. And you found your way to the school? Mrs. Rosen asked. Behind it, Amira said. I stayed out of sight until Kavya found me. Mrs. Rosen nodded and scribbled a note. Do you have any relatives? Amira shook her head. None that want me, Mrs. Rosen sighed. I wish I could say this was rare. She turned to Sundar. If you wanted to become her temporary guardian, there's paperwork. A lot of it. Background checks. Home visits. And until that process starts, she can't return with you. Amira's face crumbled. Please don't leave me here. Sundar's voice was low but firm. I won't. He turned to Mrs. Rosen. What if I had a plan? Not just for Amira, but for children like her. A foundation, scholarships, shelters that feel like homes, not temporary fixes. Permanent futures. Mrs. Rosen looked at him carefully. You're serious? Completely, he said. Then you'll need more than money, she said. You'll need heart, time, lawyers. Then I'll give all of it, Sundar said. Because I failed her father, I won't fail her. Sundar left the building 2 hours later. Amira stayed behind for one night under protection. She didn't speak much as they said goodbye, but as he walked out into the parking lot, Sundar's phone buzzed. Message from Anjali. Someone's watching us. Kavya said a black car was parked outside the house for over an hour. Driver didn't move, then just drove off. Sundar stared at the screen, frowning. Someone was watching. He dialed quickly. Anjali, he said. Lock all the doors. Check. The cameras. Call security. What's going on? She asked, her voice tense. I don't know, he said. But this wasn't just about Amira. Shadows from the past night returned with rain, thin and cold, like whispers on the windows. The Pichai home, usually a haven of peace and polished stillness, felt different now, haunted by something unseen. Kavya sat curled up on the living room couch, knees tucked to her chest, her eyes darting every so often toward the wide glass panels facing the street. Her phone rested in her lap, untouched. She hadn't said much since telling her mother about the black car that lingered for more than an hour outside their gate. Anjali moved through the house, locking every door and checking the security cameras twice. The glowing monitor in the home office showed a grainy recording from earlier that day. A black sedan, tinted windows, idling quietly near the edge of their property. No one stepped out. The car didn't move. It just waited dash-watching dot, then, at exactly 4:58 p.m., it pulled away without a sound. Anjali stared at the screen for a long time, unease settling like a weight in her stomach. When Sundar finally returned from the agency, she met him at the door. You saw the message? She asked, her voice low double quotes yes, he said, stepping inside, rainwater dripping from his coat. Kavya's right. Someone's watching. And it started the moment we brought Amira home. You think it has to do with her? Anjali asked. Sundar nodded slowly, pulling off his shoes. It's too specific to be random. No one knew she was here, not even her name, until she stepped into our house. Someone wants her gone. But who? Anjali whispered. Sundar didn't answer. Instead, he went straight to his study and pulled out his laptop. Within minutes, he was deep into a private search, hacking into corners of the internet most People didn't even know existed. Not illegal, but close. He wasn't trying to hide anything. He was trying to protect something, or someone. He started with RAGHAV.old government records. Local databases, scanned newspapers from the early 2000s. There wasn't much. Raghav's name popped up in a few places, an application for a nonprofit business license that was never approved, an article about a youth volunteer project in Mumbai, and a single mention in a city council transcript from Los Angeles years ago. Nothing criminal. Nothing that explained why a black car was parked outside his house. Sundar rubbed his eyes and leaned back. Then he searched again. This time, he typed Raghav Shankar plus whistleblower plus California need result. Buried deep in an old internet archive. Barely indexed. A single document. He clicked it open and read. The document was an internal memo from over a decade ago, sent from a mid-level manager at a tech startup that no longer existed. The memo accused the company's leadership of harvesting personal data from users without consent, including minors. It mentioned a contractor who raised the alarm. The contractor's name, Raghav Shankar. Sundar's blood went cold. He remembered now. It was a company both he and Raghav had applied to back when they were young, desperate for work in Silicon Valley. Sundar got a role at a bigger firm. Raghav took the contract job, but clearly it hadn't ended well. He read the last paragraph of the memo again. Contractor was let go. He threatened to go public. Legal followed up. We believe he's discredited now. No further risk. No further risk. That meant they buried him. Destroyed his credibility. Probably blacklisted him. Made sure no one would ever believe a word he said again. Sundar closed the laptop and stared out the window into the rain. And then it hit. IRA wasn't just a homeless girl. She was a liability to someone. Maybe she didn't even know it. Maybe her father never told her what he had done. Maybe Raghav tried to protect her by keeping her in the shadows. But now she was here with Sundar. And the people who wanted the past erased, they weren't happy about it. He stood suddenly and returned to the living room, where Kavya was still curled up. Where's your phone? He asked. She handed it to him, confused. Why? He opened the call log. A blocked number. One that called just an hour before the black car appeared. Did you answer this? He asked. No, she said. I was scared. He clicked on it. It rang once, then went dead. Someone was covering their tracks. Appa. Kavya whispered, Are we in danger? He didn't lie to her. I don't know yet. But we need to be careful. They spent the rest of the evening tightening every digital lock in the house. Sundar changed network passwords, encrypted their private files, and set up silent surveillance alerts. He called a trusted friend from his security team and asked him to station 2 plainclothes guards outside the house for now, just to watch. Then he sat down with Kavya, and he told her everything. Not the sanitized version. The real story. About how he met RAG. How they dreamed together. How Raghav gave him courage when he almost gave up. How he left and never went back. How the guilt had grown so quietly that he stopped noticing it was there. I listened without interrupting. Her eyes never left his face. He believed in me, Sundar said finally, when no one else did. I didn't return the favor, but maybe I still can. By helping Amira? She asked. By protecting her? He said. And by giving her the life her father never got. Asterisk. The next morning, the sun returned, bright, but cold. Sundar was already awake when the first email came through. Subject line, urgent, proposal for Amira Shankar's guardianship status. It was from Mrs. Rosen. He opened it immediately. Mr. Pichai, after reviewing your request and conducting a preliminary background screening, we are prepared to fast-track your application for temporary guardianship. However, I need to inform you that a private law firm has filed a motion challenging your claim. They are requesting custody of Amira on behalf of an unnamed client. This is highly unusual. I believe you should prepare for a legal battle. Sundar stared at the screen. An unnamed client. Who would try to Amira? Unless they had something to hide. He picked up the phone and called Mrs. Rosen. I need to know who filed that motion. I can't tell you, she said. But off the record, there's something strange about this. The firm is powerful, expensive. This isn't normal. Sundar took a breath. Then we make it not normal. I'm not backing down. You'll need a strong legal team, she said. I have one, he replied. He ended the call and immediately called his company's general counsel. We're going to court, he said. Over what? Over a child, Sundar answered. And a cover-up no one wants exposed. That night, just before Sundar shut down his laptop, another email came through. No subject, no sender name. Just a message. If you keep pushing this, we'll take more than your company. We'll take everything. Attached was a photo not of Sundar, not of Amira, but of kavya leaving. School alone, asterisk, everything to Los for the first time in years. Sundar felt something he had almost forgotten, fear that reached beyond logic. It wasn't the kind of fear that came with tough business decisions or billion-dollar risks. It was raw, personal, ancient. The kind of fear that twisted your stomach, burned your chest, and made every second feel like a clock ticking toward something awful. He stared at the email on his screen. The photo of Kavya was crystal clear, taken from across the street as she stepped out of school. Headphones in, her backpack slung over one shoulder, unaware of anything unusual. The angle was perfect, deliberate. A message. This wasn't just a warning. It was a threat. And it wasn't vague. We'll take everything. He saved the image, encrypted the email, and deleted it from his inbox. Then he stood up and locked his office door behind him. I found him a few minutes later in the hallway, checking the front and back cameras again. What happened? She asked. Sundar hesitated, then showed her the photo. She gasped. Her hand flew to her mouth. They're watching her, she whispered. They want me to stop, Sundar said. They want me to let Amira go. Anjali's eyes hardened. You're not going to, are you? No, he said. But we need to protect Kavya. Now, by midnight, security around the house had doubled. Sundar called in favors he hadn't touched in over a decade. Private agents, trusted contacts from cybercrime units, surveillance analysts. They swept every corner of the property, installed motion sensors, and activated a private, encrypted communication channel between the family's devices. But even with all that, Sundar knew the danger wasn't just outside that it was coming from. Inside the system. Whoever wanted to take Amira didn't need to break in. They had lawyers, influence, reach. They had power, asterisk. 2 days later. Sundar sat in a private courtroom, surrounded by legal teams and sealed documents. He had moved faster than most people thought possible. And now, across the polished table, sat 3 men in dark suits, their faces expressionless. None of them introduced themselves. None of them looked at Amira. But she was there, seated beside Sundar, small and silent. Her hands in her lap. The judge, an older woman with silver hair and sharp eyes, glanced at the motion. This is an unusual case, she said. A private law firm representing an anonymous entity is requesting custody of a minor with no prior relationship to her. And they're doing so against a petition filed by Mr. Sundar Pichai, who seeks temporary guardianship. The lead attorney, from the other side, cleared his throat. Your Honor, our client believes the child is in danger. They have reason to believe that placing her in the home of a high-profile individual may attract unwanted attention and further harm her. Your Honor, that's ironic, considering she wasn't in danger until she entered Mr. Pichai's home. And now someone is stalking his daughter, threatening his family, and trying to remove the child from his care without offering a single credible reason or identity. Amira looked down, feeling like a prize in a game she didn't understand. The judge turned to Sundar. Mr. Pichai, can you explain your interest in this child, given that you had no contact with her until last week? Sundar stood. He spoke. Slowly, Not from notes, not from legal strategy, but from truth. Amira is the daughter of Raghav Shankar. He was once my best friend. We grew up in the same neighborhood, studied together, survived together. When I left India, I promised him I'd come back for him. I never did. I thought he'd moved on. He hadn't. And now he's gone, and his daughter is alone. I won't let her disappear like he did. The judge studied him for a moment, then looked at Amira. Is this true? Amira nodded. He's telling the truth. My father never stopped talking about him. He said one day he'd come, and he did. The judge sighed. This should be simple, but it's not. The opposing motion complicates things. And until I can understand who's really behind this legal challenge, I can't ignore the danger. Danger to whom? Sundar asked. To all of you, she said. This court is not equipped to handle threats. It only interprets law. Asterisk after. Court, the three attorneys from the other side disappeared before Sundar could speak to them. No business cards. No names. No trail. But that night, he got another email. This time. It wasn't anonymous. It was from someone he hadn't spoken to in 15 years, Rayesh Verma. Rayesh had once been a rising star in the valley. He ran one of the early tech companies that exploded in value before quietly vanishing. No scandals. No headlines. Just gone. But Sundar had heard whispers about data breaches, unethical deals, cover-ups involving underage users. He opened the email. Stop digging. You're pulling on a thread that could unravel everything. This isn't about the girl. It's about what her father knew. Raghav found something back then. He saved files, notes, a list. He showed me once. Then he disappeared. If that girl still has what he left behind, you're already in over your head. Sundar stared at the screen. List. He ran downstairs, where Amira was sitting with Kavya and Anjali. Her face was drawn, tired. Her eyes barely lifted when he entered. Amira, he said gently, did your father leave anything behind? Papers? A notebook? Files? Amira blinked. Just this. She pulled a small leather pouch from her backpack. Inside, wrapped in plastic, was a flash drive. I was going to throw it away, she said. I thought it was just old files. Sundar took it with trembling hands. Can I check it? Amira nodded. He rushed to his study, plugged the drive in, and weighted one folder, labeled simply. Truth inside were hundreds of documents. Company memos, email threads, whistleblower notes, logs of data collection methods, even code snippets. And at the bottom, a spreadsheet labeled target _users _2009. He opened it. Thousands of names. With ages. Most were under 18. Sundar leaned back in his chair. This wasn't just a scandal. It was a crime. And Raghav had known. And now, through his daughter, so did Sundar. ***. He returned to the living room, pale but determined. This is what they're after, he said. And JAL. I read the first few lines and closed her eyes. How could they bury this? They had money, reach. Lawyers. What are you going to do? Kavya asked. Sundar looked at them. I'm going to publish it. Amira sat up. What? I'll take the risk, he said. If they come after me, fine. But this needs to come out. People need to know. Anjali touched his hand. Are you sure? I can't build a future for our daughter or Amira on silence. He uploaded the documents to a secure server, wrote a detailed message, and hit send. To journalists, regulators, Eli's, watchdogs. Within hours. The story exploded. Headlines across the world. Tech giant exposes child data scandal hidden for 15 years. Whistleblower's daughter at center of unfolding Kasuho is protecting the truth, and who is hunting it. Asterisk. That night, Sundar stood by Amira's bedroom door. She was awake, reading. You okay? He asked. I think so, she said. I just never thought my father's story would matter. It does, Sundar said. And so do you. Amira looked up at him, her voice soft. I'm scared. Me too, he replied. And just as he turned to go, his phone buzzed. A new message. No. sender. No text. Just a video. He pressed play. The screen flickered. Then showed a live feed from inside his home. Someone had hacked the cameras, and they were already inside. Asterisk. The moment of truth house was supposed to be the one place left untouched by the storm. The rain had long stopped. The sky stretched into a soft orange dusk, and the birds were returning to the trees like nothing had happened. But inside Sundar Pichai's home, the air was electric with dread. No one spoke as the video played again, on his phone looping endlessly, showing grainy black and white footage from inside their living room. The camera feed was coming from their own security system, but it wasn't coming from Sundar's server. It was intercepted, rerouted. Someone had gained access from the outside. And not just access. They wanted him to know in the video. The family wasn't present. The room was still quiet. A chair slightly pulled out, a sweater draped over the arm of the couch. The kind of everyday clutter that normally brought comfort, but now it was eerie, like someone had walked through the home and left everything untouched on purpose. As a message. They were here, Sundar whispered. And they left without taking anything. Why would they do that? Anjali asked, her voice tight. Because they don't want the flash drive anymore, Sundar said. They want us. Amira stood frozen near the hallway, her arms crossed over her chest like she was holding herself together. I thought it would stop after you sent the files out, she said. I thought they'd leave us alone. They should have, Sundar said. But this goes deeper. They're not worried about exposure. They're worried about what's next. What do you mean? Kavya asked, her voice barely above a whisper. This isn't just about protecting a secret, Sundar said. It's about stopping people like us from building something better. He walked to the window and stared out into the yard. Nothing moved. But he didn't feel safe. Asterisk, over. The next 2 days, the world erupted. The leaked files had reached journalists across the globe. Headlines spread faster than wildfire. Debates exploded on TV. Experts were dragged into interviews. Former employees came forward with whispers of their own. And the names on the spreadsheet, the underage users began to surface. Parents, students, entire communities. People started asking questions, demanding answers. Calls came in from Washington, then from Brussels, then from Delhi. Sundar didn't sleep. Not because he was afraid, but because he couldn't afford to rest. He was being watched, but he was also being listened to. And then, one morning, just as he was preparing to leave for a televised interview, the doorbell rang. Not the usual chime. A hard, sharp knock. His heart jumped. I stepped back. Instinctively, Sundar walked to the door, checked the feed. No one was visible. He opened it slowly. A package sat on the doorstep. No return address. No label. Just a thin envelope taped to the top. He brought it inside. Set it down carefully and opened the envelope. Inside was a single sheet of paper. Typed. No name. Last warning. Drop the girl. Or next time, we won't be quiet. His stomach dropped. He opened the box. No bomb. No wires. Just a torn photo. One half of a smiling girl. Amira. And next to it in black ink. We know where she sleeps. He stared at the photo, his hand shaking. And then, suddenly, all the fear drained away. Not because the threat was over, but because he had made a decision. He would not run. He would not fold. They had taken enough from Raghav. They would not take. Amira. Asterisk. The following night, Sundar stood on a small stage in San Francisco. The tech summit had been scheduled months in advance. He was supposed to give a keynote on cloud infrastructure and AI transformation. Instead, he walked on stage in silence. Cameras clicked. Journalists leaned forward. His speech was expected to be rehearsed, polished, safe, but it wasn't. He looked at the crowd, then down at the first row where Amira sat between Anjali and Kavya. The lights framed her face like something sacred. She didn't know what he was about to do. He held the mic in one hand, the photo in the other. Some of you know me as a CEO, he said. Some as an innovator, some as a problem solver. But tonight I want you to know me as something else, a man who lets silence become comfortable and who's finally choosing not to stay quiet anymore. He paused. When I was young, my best friend believed in a better world, a more fair world. He saw things the rest of us didn't, and when he tried to speak up, he was silenced, erased, blacklisted, and now he's gone. A screen behind him lit up showing the old photo of Raghav and Sundar. Young and hopeful. This is Raghav Shankar, Sundar said. He died in a parking garage, alone, forgotten. But he left behind someone he loved more than anything. He looked at Amira. His daughter is here tonight. And powerful people want her to disappear just like he did. Because she carries truth, not in her hands, but in her blood. And I will not let her be erased. He held up the photo he received in the box. This was sent to my home. A threat. And to the people behind this, I say it is over. The world is watching now. The audience was silent, and then someone stood dot then. Another dot applause filled the room dot not for the speech. For the stand, asterisk, asterisk, within 48 hours. Federal investigators launched a probe into the firms tied to the child data scandal. Arrests were made, offices were raided, hidden servers were seized. Whistleblowers came forward with more documents. Class action lawsuits began piling up. The firm that filed to take Amira away vanished into silence.